Hello, and welcome to today's panel discussion, The State of Foster Care. My name is Kelsey Louie, and I'm the proud CEO of the Door and Broome Street Academy. Since moving into this role a year ago, I find myself newly inspired each and every day by the creativity and purposeful dedication of the unique individuals who are part of this community, including our government, corporate, and nonprofit partners, our donors, our staff, and especially our extraordinary young people. The Door was founded 50 years ago to meet the complex needs of diverse New York City youth. That vital aim remains a catalyst fueling all that we do, and the organizational growth of the Door over the decades reflects that steadfast, mission-driven focus. In 1972, a dozen concerned New Yorkers gathered with no money, no space, no equipment, no staff, and launched the Door in response to an ongoing state of crisis being experienced by our city's youth. Half a century later, the Door is a wide-ranging and ever-expanding community care network of 350 employees providing vital services and programs to thousands of New York City young people each year in multiple spaces across our city. At this bustling Soho headquarters, at our renowned charter school, Broome Street Academy, housed on our 4th floor, at our 2 supporting housing sites in downtown Manhattan, and at our Bronx Youth Center, our rapidly growing satellite space in the South Bronx. In preparing for today's event, I was struck that 2 core values that amplify the strength of the Door's diverse community are also the same drivers that have brought this wider community network to this space today: collaboration and dialogue. Today's panel was an outgrowth of the willingness and desire for all of the key stakeholders in New York City's foster care system: local officials, providers, policymakers, advocates, and those with lived experience in foster care to come together in conversation to enhance the existing foster care system so it's an increasingly effective safety net and resource that empowers the young people who rely on it. It's a testament to everyone's deep commitment to helping young people thrive and grow into their best selves that we're all here to lend our voices and perspectives in support of that common purpose. In conjunction with that shared objective, today's conversation is being facilitated by some of our youth leaders, who you'll hear more about from Foster Care Programming Supervisor Siobhan Stewart. All of these youth leaders come from our Bronx Youth Center's Academy program, which supports young people who have been part of the foster care system with career and education goals to help them move towards independence through individualized academic and employment services, paid internships, case management, life skills training, work readiness resources, and supportive counseling. In my experience leading 2 social service organizations, and more importantly, as a social worker, I've found that the most creative programs and the most effective policy enhancements arise through collaboration grounded in a healthy exchange of diverse voices and perspectives. Today's youth facilitators and speakers will share their unique, insightful reflections on their time in foster care with local officials and other leaders in the field. We hope that this will deepen the trust between decision makers and the young people that the system serves, and ultimately inform and strengthen the New York City foster care system for others, both today and in the future. On behalf of all of us at the Door, thank you for your support and for taking part in such an important discussion. Together, we are far greater than the sum of our different parts. Working together through conversations like this one, I'm certain that our brightest achievements are yet to come. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Siobhan Stewart.
Hello, my name is Siobhan Stewart. I'm the supervisor of foster care at the Door Bronx Youth Center. Thank you all again for joining us for today's Candid Conversation. We're really excited for you all to be here today. So the Academy, like many of our programs, was created to fulfill a need. We found that often our youth, with involvement in the Administration for Children's Services, known as ACS, whether past or present, needed holistic support to be successful both personally and in our career and education programs. The Academy works to help youth transition out of the foster care system while simultaneously supporting their educational attainment, employment potentials, and overall well-being to ensure young people have the tools and resources needed to achieve long-term economic self-sufficiency. Our programs and supports include individual and group therapy, housing and benefits support, youth leadership council, parenting support and parenting journey, an 100-hour internship, life skills and job readiness workshops, and advocacy and leadership. Which brings us to today's event organized by the DOOR's ACS Work Group. The ACS Working Group is comprised of a group of staff across all departments alongside our Academy youth. The focus is on addressing systemic racism within ACS and amending policies to center youth. Our hopes for today are to have a candid conversation that leads to effective enhancements to the system that serves young people in care. I will hand the mic over to Jalen and Winter, who will be our moderators for today's event. They will walk us through some questions as they all have a conversation amongst their peers, and then we will open up the room so that we can ask some additional questions. So without further ado, Jalen Ramos and Winter Thomas.
Bear with me, because I'm not fancy with the paper and the laptop. I'm reading off my phone. Okay, so my name is Winter. I'm 25 years old. I am not in care now, but I was in care for 5 years. And so at the age of 13, I got arrested for a family dispute that I had with my brother. That caused me to jump around from placement to placement. One of the biggest issues with the system, I feel, is the rush decision to put youth in a place that is available as opposed to somewhere that will best benefit the youth. Our priority should be making sure every person gets matched with a place that will benefit them as monumentally as possible in the long run. Homes should be evaluated on a case-to-case basis, ensuring that the needs of the individual youth are capable of being met in their environment or adjusting the environment to meet their needs. Youth should be able to go around to different foster homes/families, almost like a college tour, and have a voice in where they feel they would thrive the most. This allows them to feel more comfortable expressing how they feel. We haven't given them a voice to tell us what they feel they need to make these transitions as smooth as possible. With doing that, it would limit the amount of places that a youth is sent to. Moving them from place to place ensures that they do not know stability and consistency, and that their problems weren't worth putting in the extra effort in the place that they were placed. As difficult as my experience was, the real hard part came when transitioning out of care. The lack of structure and assistance made it extremely hard for me to thrive on my own. I struggled for a while, and once I had my son, I realized that I couldn't let their lack of preparation stop me from figuring things out. So when I decided to leave my abusive husband is when I said, just because my journey wasn't what I expected it to be, doesn't mean that my destination has to change. I knew that I had to get a GED to get the ball rolling, so that's when I found out about the DOOR. I got my GED on my first try. I started college prep for a few weeks, and then I joined the EMT program. The DOOR has been very hands-on and extremely supportive with me. I took the EMT course to become an EMT. I got certified, and now I'm a lab technician at Westchester Medical Center. Thank you. I didn't have time to tell you my whole story, but I struggled a lot more than you can imagine. And we shouldn't allow our youth to continue to live through the cycle when there's something that we can do about it. And if then we can all come together and to come up with a fix to make sure that they're given the advantages that they need and deserve to be successful. Take it away, Jalen.
Hi, my name is Jalen. My pronouns is she, her, hers. I'm a leader with the Bronx Youth Leadership Council, and I'll start. I'm 21 now. I'm still in care. I haven't aged out. I've been in care since I was 14 years old. Lived in a total of 4 homes in the past 4 years. Home-to-home experience became more nerve-wracking than the last. From my experience, I dealt with caseworkers who barely shared information on my placement, foster family, and backgrounds, plus my benefits. I remember asking for a little insight on my homes, and my workers simply responded with just a race, a quantity of children at the home, family's last name, and rules and regulations. For this reason, I felt completely blindsided and abandoned from the system. Finally realizing back then I wasn't being encouraged to visit the foster homes and meet their foster parents and families before placement were finalized. Later on, going from placement to placement became my normal, until I was being mistreated by another foster kids in the home. Behaviors became repetitive, so I demanded for a change of home and stay at a family care. In spite of all this, I wish for the system to prioritize kingship, giving the youth an option to be with family or a member that they feel more comfortable around and more love and more caring. That's all. Thank you.
Pardon me, I didn't come with anything fancy. I'm gonna go off the fly here. Formerly, my name is Hassan Harris Sr., but I'm better known as Dizzy Capone. So, hi guys. Thank you for that. I usually don't get a hi back. I'm 24. My pronouns are he, him, and we because I'm not possessive. I personally have not had the trouble of going through care, but I'm working with ACS in care with my son. He's 4 years old as of right now, and in the first 3 years of his life, I haven't really been able to be there and be a part of his life. So it's kind of a nerve-wracking trying to work everything out with the ACS workers, trying to regulate how I work with my son and how things, things are never stable for him. And in understanding that, how hard that can be for a 4-year-old and having to, think outside of being a 24-year-old to look at a 4-year-old and understand. Nonetheless, I have had the experience of working with one foster mother that was very helpful. She saw beyond what was on paper, and she decided to work with me. She saw how genuine I was, and as of now, I'm working with ACS to retain sole custody of my son.
What do you think is important for adults who work with youth in foster care to understand about the experience of being in foster care?
I think it's very important for adults who work with the youth in foster care to understand the experience of being in foster care so that the adult won't come off judgmental, overcritical, or negative. Sharing relatable moments within each other creates a better understanding and a better bonding.
All right, to double back on that, I agree with you because looking inside beyond just, again, what's on paper or what you're given in a file to really see what's going on with the home, what's going on with the family, I think it takes a little bit more effort, and there's not that much of it.
I think people fail to realize that there are reasons behind why people do what they do. So a youth is not just waking up one day you know what? I'm gonna go throw somebody off a bridge. Like people don't just wake up deciding to do bad. The things have occurred in their lives that makes them so angry, and to take that extra time to understand why they are feeling the way that they're feeling, why they're doing the things that they're doing, their reasons, that people just don't have the patience to dig that deep into it.
Was there someone that you met while in foster care that changed your life for the better? What about them made them so helpful?
Okay, I can touch base back like what I was saying with the foster mother. She gave me a little bit more reassurance in myself. She kept telling me to stop beating myself up, stop worrying, because at the end of the day, when I was still fighting for visitation rights, when I was still fighting to get weekend visits, when I was still fighting to get overnight visits, and now I have my son. So she told me the situation happened and how everything played out. It really seems like it was blown out of proportion dealing with who I was dealing with. nonetheless, it was her reassurance. It was her like pushing me and still pushing me and trying to, make sure that I'm doing what I need to do, not only for me but for him.
It wasn't like a person, it was more of a place. The place that was most impactful to me was when I actually got arrested and I was in jail. They had mentors that they assigned to all the kids, and I was an extra problematic child, so I often had a one-to-one, and my one-to-ones would really work with me. They started to make me realize a combination of them and me seeing people leave and come back in 5 days, 9 days. I was like, nah, this can't be me. Like, I cannot. So they started to really make me realize that I have to be accountable for my actions. Like, I shouldn't have to be accountable to someone else. I shouldn't have to have someone else be on top of me for me to realize that I have to get my own life in order. Because when I leave care, who's to know what's going to happen? That's when I started to really realize, like, I think I got to get it together. Because I'm not coming back. Once I leave, I'm not coming back. There's no way. So to me, they were the most impactful because, it was a 24/7 reality check when you're in jail. Like, they let you know the real. But that's really what I needed, was that straightforwardness, that, like, get your act together or you're going to be in here for the rest of your life. Like,
what was the hardest part of aging out of foster care?
the lack of help. I didn't have help. Like, I was doing it by myself, and I was home for maybe a month. And then I met my ex-husband, and I got pregnant with my son, and everything was just happening so quickly, and I didn't really know what I was doing. My parents didn't take me back, so I was in a shelter. I moved in with everything was just really bad. I didn't have help, so I really didn't know what I was doing. Once I left my husband and I had my son, one day I was cleaning and I stubbed my toe, and I was like, oh, the S word. And my son goes, oh, the S word. And I was like, oh, he's really watching me. Like, everything I do is what he sees. So I was like, okay, I have to get it together. So that's when I realized, like, I have to get it together. And then I came across the DOOR program, and I don't know honestly, I don't know where I would be without the DOOR, because they really push you and they really work with you and make you feel like, while I know that you can do it, you need to make sure that you know that you can do it. They get you to a place where you're so confident, where you're like, I got this. Like, they've helped me. I have the support. I know that even if I go out on my own, I'll always have them as support, as someone I can call if I need to lean on. Like,
I haven't aged out yet, but I'm 21, so that's the anchor of aging out. That's when you're given the option if you want to stay in care or not. And I chose to stay in care. The reason why is because my biggest fear is homelessness, not having support, not having nobody there. Without the DOOR, I wouldn't have support. So thank you to the DOOR. Thank you for my the people that helped me, because that's my team. Like, they help me. They help me with housing, educational reason, shelter. If I didn't have nowhere to go tonight, they will help me. Like, so that's why it's like that's my biggest fear, and that's just the hardest question for me, because it's like, what's next after you age out? Why does the benefits have to stop? Why does the check-ins have to stop? Why does me having to move out of a foster home that I thought that was my stability? Why do I have to leave? It's like, that's the question. It's like, it's a question mark after a question mark, because what's next? They don't have your best interest. Not everybody in the system has your best interest.
what would you have liked to have been provided? Examples: money, housing, support, a job, etc., while aging out of foster care to make the experience easier.
Well, since I was in care since I was 14, I was kind of, I was at the age where I thought, like, being at home was boring and outside was fun, chilling with my friends was fun, missing out on school. Like, so that kind of played a big part of me, the reason why I have been going home to home and place to place. But I finally realized that becoming of age. But while I was younger, it was like, I wish that the system prioritized kingship, because kingship is a way for you to, like, it's like, I feel like they gave me power to like live with a family member and somebody that I'm more comfortable with than an outsider, than somebody that don't know me from a hole in the wall, that somebody that can easily mistreat me as soon as you walk out those doors. Like, that's neglect, that's abandon. Once you leave a child in the home, if you're not checking on their clothing, their food, or how they get into school, like, or how can you communicate with your family being that you're in the home? I wasn't provided a phone. I wasn't provided a laptop. I went in the system just with the clothes I had on. Literally, I didn't have nobody number, my mom number, so it's just like, I wish they like They gave me a little bit of power. Like, listen, here's the Obama phone you can use that have minutes on it. You could call your mom whenever. I can't see her. I'm 14 years old. I have to work out a curfew thing when you're in foster care. You have to work out a curfew home and rules and regulations. So it's like, yeah.
Obviously, I feel like everybody needs money. Like, I need money now. Like, but the support, aside from everything else, I really feel like the hands-on support afterwards is really what they need. Like, they need someone to check up on them, ask them if they need anything, help them with, like, even the little stuff. Like, they don't stress to you how important credit is. The financial literacy should be an absolute must before you leave foster care, because once you go out here on the world, now you have to know how to build your credit. You have to know the importance of it, because realistically, what are you going to get without good credit? You can't get an apartment. You can't get a good car. Like, you want to be able to do things for yourself without having to rely on, like, you don't want to have to leave the system to then go on welfare and be a welfare child for the rest of your life. Like, you want to be able to get to a point where you can say, okay, like, I came from the system and I'm making enough money, or I'm in a place where I'm stable enough to not need the government to fund my life. I think the support is the most important thing, because they don't have that. Even with the money, you don't know how to spend it. You don't know how to save it. You don't know how to build your credit. Like, they need the support, the knowledge of what comes with all these things, a job, how to keep your job, how to get your job. Like, I think support is the biggest thing for the kids.
One thing that I would try to change about the foster care system would be like how the staff communicate and interact with the youth in foster care. That's like a big ass impact within one of us and the kid and the staff in there, because it'd be a lot of favoritism within the staff and the resident, and that's an issue because some residents tend to, retaliate and not want to follow order when they see staff showing out favoritism to more resident than the other, and that's an issue.
To have staff that actually know what the kids have gone through. A lot of time we just get anybody who needs a job and we put them with these kids they have no idea what these kids are going through. So to them it's just like, little girl, okay, you're not with your mom. Some people's moms are dead, okay, but you have no idea how that impacted me. You don't know how that made that individual person feel. A lot of times we just get anybody to have these to care for these kids, and they don't really understand how sensitive they have to be to the youth, because we don't know what they've gone through. Like, we got to be a little bit more sensitive, as opposed to me talking to, like, no offense, I don't know what you guys been through either, but I mean, like, as opposed to me talking to you and then me talking to a 14-year-old foster kid, I know that I have to be a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more patient. As you know, I feel like a lot of times we don't have that. We just got people who need checks and they need money. They have kids of their own that they have to worry about, so their priority is not making sure that the youth are benefiting from this. Their priority is making sure that we don't die so they don't lose their jobs. Like,
Yeah, I agree with Winter and Ash, because I feel like a connection between you and your worker is everything. It's not due to the bonding. It's not a relation. Like, you don't have to look at it as a relationship or a friendship. It's to make the child feel comfortable and feel like they're good and feel like they're safe. You're basically in charge of that child. If the parent is not in charge of that child, you're signing over for that child. When that child needs school enrollment, you're coming into that school. When that child needs school check-ins to see if that child has been going to school, report cards, you have to go. Like, caseworkers don't notice, but they're like our second parent. They're like our godparent that we never have. That they have more power to most of the things that we don't have in power to, but I feel like they use less of their power for some reason.
I wanna tap in with that, because I feel like there needs to be some type of relationship bigger than just again working for that check, or just trying to sit here and make sure I get this done at this said time so I can clock out. Because at the end of the day, when these kids look up to these workers, there's a sense of hope that they see. And if you just doing it to sit here and make sure you can pay your mortgage, or you could just make sure you pay off your car note, that's not helping these kids. That's not helping the family. Better evaluations of homes, because we shouldn't be all the way in 2022 and we still dealing with certain homes where kids are being harmed still. Whereas we've went through that, we've seen that. It's been depicted all over the place, in media, all over the place. So at this point, everyone's aware of it. Why is it still happening? everybody needs some type of consistency in their life, whether they want to admit it or not, and kids need it more.
And to add on, I feel like we should also change the age limit, because another thing is like they say 21 is the age out of foster care. But I see like when you in foster care and you 18, most of the staff tend not to really work with you once you're 18. They don't try to give you as much support system that you will get when you're under 18. And I feel like that shouldn't be acceptable, because a lot of us don't know much because they don't teach us the stuff we need while we're in the system. The lack of communication, the lack of education, what we need and stuff. So that's a big impact. And I also feel like it should be more security in the foster care system, because from my experience, I got jumped in a foster care before where a resident allowed her friend to trespass in the group home and jump me in my sleep. That should have never occurred if she's not a resident in that foster care. And also another thing, I feel like the people that sit behind the computers that don't get to associate with the resident, the foster care youth, shouldn't really have much of a say-so based off reading the paperwork. If you don't get up from the computer to come interact with the resident, how are you gonna know who we really are just based off reading us off of paperwork? Because it's a lot of time you see kids on paperwork track about us, but what they fail to realize is sometimes we retaliate because we don't get what we want, what we're looking for, the outcome that we need. From my experience also, I know like I wanted to go into a foster home. My mom didn't want to give up her full custody. So I was being bounced from group homes, foster care, RTC, RTF, unnecessary. And I'm not going to sit and say I was an angel, because I was not. We all teenagers have our ways. We have us. We have them little hormones. But it was time I was hoping for a good foster parent to adopt me. But when that wasn't happening, I started retaliating. And I was like, why am I going to listen for if I'm not getting what I'm looking forward to? So I feel like it should be more of a communication. And the lawyers that we receive too for the foster care system, because they're not really getting paid, they don't really try to assist us as much as they can. They just go in there and listen to what you gotta say the very same day of court. They don't contact you before court. They don't contact you in between the time period you haven't gone to court to see your progress. They always wait till the very same day of court, which is not enough amount of time to update them on what's been happening from the last court date till the current court date.
So I do want to touch base on that too. I haven't had the misfortune to deal with a bad lawyer that came from the foster care system, but I know that there is, because I've witnessed it in the case that I've had to deal with. These lawyers get nasty because they know that somewhere down the line it's either one way or the other, and then after a while they don't care. You need people that's really gonna be genuine about helping these clients in with their cases, because it's bigger than just trying to win a case. It's bigger than just trying to win a case.
Why is youth voice important? Why should adults prioritize implementing the feedback of young people into their work when they are thinking about shifting the foster care system?
They're not the ones who have to live through the system. Like, yeah, you're the ones who probably have to deal with the child for the very, short amount of time that you have to deal with them, but you're not the one who has to live through it. You're not the one who has to eat, sleep, and wake up in this place with strangers I'm not comfortable with, people I don't know, and you want this transition for them to be as easy as possible, because if it's not, then that also makes your job harder, because now you got to keep coming back from your office and figuring out what's wrong, placing the child into a new home, when we can just take that extra time that we need to take in the beginning of this process to make sure that the child is placed in the place that it will benefit everyone the most. Like if there are specific needs that this child has that they don't offer at all the places, then they shouldn't just be put anywhere that has available beds. The kids are the ones who have to live through this. And a lot of times we don't tell them the full story, or they don't really know what's going on with us because they don't give us the voice. They should have the voice so that they feel more comfortable sharing how they feel. Because I know that, I'm 25 now, so I'll talk to y'all about anything. But back then, I wouldn't have been doing this because I wouldn't have felt comfortable. I would have thought that y'all were trying to set me up and y'all might be trying to retaliate or come back to us and we'll get in trouble for everything that we're telling you is flawed with the system. It shouldn't be like that. They should have a say in their own care. It's them who has to live through it, not us.
Comfortability and full disclosure. That's what I got from what she just said, because at the end of the day, that is one of the two, or if not two of the most things that these kids don't feel. They don't feel like they get full disclosure from anybody about anything that they have to deal with. They feel like they gotta get the runaround about anything when it pertains to something that's supposed to be benefiting them. And comfortability, whether it be comfortability with someone you're speaking with, comfortability with wherever you have to reside, comfortability with understanding that there may be hope that this situation will pass. How certain kids feel like this is it. And that's why when they get to the end and when it's time for them to age out, they frantic. They don't know what to do. So it's like, you gotta pay it forward to a certain extent. For me, it's not just about what I can sit here and get out of it. It's what can we do to sit here and benefit them. Because later on down the line, and they should be able to sit here and qualify for jobs to help them and pay it forward.
To piggyback off what my peers said, from what I'm getting from them is that they should make the foster care system more of a home for the youth, because we're already being taken from our home, so it kind of make it seem like we're comfortable, we're not being removed from a setting we shouldn't be. And since, and I'm honestly, I don't really know what to say. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm kind of scared being here speaking in front of everybody, but
Don't worry.
our voice needs to be heard. Wait, hold on. Because if our voice was heard, a lot of stuff could be avoided in the foster care system. A lot of kids wouldn't need to be in the foster care system. And I feel like most of the staff you guys hired, it should be more background check. Just because they have certain experience with the youth, it does not mean they're willing to work with the youth. Because there is placement that I can sit here off the top of my head and tell you staff should not be working there. A lot of resident got them, and I could sit here from example. Resident will go on campus being a virgin, coming off not a virgin. Resident leaving campus pregnant by staff. Resident staff pimping out children on campus. You have children running away to staff because the staff is taking them to go pimp them out and doing all type of stuff. We're being removed from our home to be protected, not to be put in a predicament where we're gonna feel unsafe, where we gotta be worried about or if we're getting the help we need, or is these people really here to help us? So us being here today and our voice being heard is a big thing for us, and is like a big factor. And I feel like it should be a big change, and you guys should really listen to us and take as much as you can, because it will really help the system if you guys take as much as you can from us.
Yes, girl.
Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity.
A lot of times, we don't even need foster homes. We just need somebody to have a conversation and find out what it is that we did need. A lot of times, the kids don't even need to be removed from their homes. But parents get overwhelmed, especially when they have more than one child. Like, I was far from a golden child. I was a really bad child, actually. But I had reasons that my parents didn't have the care to take the time to dig into why I was the way that I was. And they had I have brothers. So they didn't have the patience to do what they should have done, which was find out why I was the way I was. Everything that I had problems with could have been fixed in my home. I didn't need to be removed from my home. But parents, a lot of times, they don't have the patience or the resources or the knowledge, and then ACS gets involved and they don't have the patience, and then kids end up outside of their homes, especially teenagers, because to them, we're just rebellious. There's no reason for why we do it. We just got up one day and decided that we was just gonna rebel. Okay, we're transitioning this question to Ray Singleton, Deputy Commissioner of ACS, yes. Yes. Ina Mendez, Interim Deputy Commissioner, ACS, yes. And Kelsey, the CEO of The Door. After hearing what the YP shared, what is one thing that you can commit to help shift the foster care system to best meet the needs of the youth who are aging out of foster care?
I'm not great at this. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ina Mendez. I'm the Interim Deputy Commissioner in the Family Permanency Services Division at ACS, which works very closely with our foster care providers to provide services to children and their parents. So before I answer your question, I'm just going to say some things. I really thank you for your openness to share this information. And what I will say for myself personally is really figuring out how I can infuse these voices I heard as we set policies and expectations for the providers, and even thinking, how can we take this information and share it, right? We had a meeting with all the providers yesterday, and just wondering how this information can get shared, right? Like, I know they speak with youth, they're interacting with the children that are placed with them, but sometimes when you really can have questions and an answer, it might be helpful. So that's just kind of that's my personal commitment. In terms of ACS, we have a youth leadership council that we formed a few years back, but really, I think one of the things we can do is make sure as that council meets, their recommendations are moved forward, right? And so we've done that a little bit. We have a youth experience survey that we issue every year. And probably like 2 years ago, we said, let's take the questions to the council to see what other questions we should ask. And the questions they suggested, we were like, oh, wow. And we added them to the survey, and we take that information, and that's what helps us move forward. So like a commitment to doing that. In terms of, like, you were talking about supports beyond 21, we have a program called Fair Futures, which started, I think, a couple of years ago, and it provided children, maybe 11 to 21, with coaches, tutors, and support to kind of prepare them, depending, either if they were going to get adopted or if they were going to be, exiting care on their own. So this year, for next year, so we operate on fiscal year, so starting July 1st, we'll have services for children 21 to 26, and even children that have already exited out of care. And they will get a coach, a tutor, and this is someone that will be able to come in and support, maybe answer those questions that you have. How do I open a bank account? How do I do this? And this is moving forward. So the city has promised money. Don't ask me all the details, but we have the money, and we're going to be providing that to the providers. And it'll be in a framework, and there'll be expectations that we're going to ask that they follow. But it's that idea that just because you're 21 or 22, voila. Because I know when I was 22, there was no voila, trust me. So, right? So what are those supports? So that's launching. So with everything, it's going to take a minute, but that's the plan, because I think everyone understands that you need additional support. So that's something that will be happening starting July 1st, and we'll be rolling that out as well. So those are my two commitments.
So I'll go next. I'm Ray Singleton, and I'd love to wear the title of Deputy Commissioner, but that's her title. I'm an Assistant Commissioner, and I'm really proud of all of you. I think, you're sharing what you're feeling inside is the most difficult thing to do, and especially with folks who you don't know. What I walk away with is a genuine understanding of how important it is to not just walk into a room and not take the time to understand who you're working with. And Jalen and I had a conversation before all of this started, and one of the things that we said, which I hear so deeply in this conversation, is that folks have to take the time to really understand and connect with who you are, but then understand what your goals are, right? And work with you in a collaborative way to move that forward. And that is not something that's unique to the foster care system. That is something that's ingrained in family. And that's something that family does. And so family doesn't necessarily have to be your birth mother and father. Family is of the people who show you that love, that nurture, that care, and that concern for you, who you are today, and who you're going to be tomorrow. And so I hear that from you all. And I think that's a very important lesson. It's something that I will walk away here, and I can make a personal commitment that that is always going to be the way that I move forward. That's my approach. But I hear it from you, and it's confirmation from me that it's the right approach. The other thing, I just want to really support what Ina said, and just re-emphasize that the Fear Futures program, the full intent of that program is to provide a coach who thinks in that way, who has that approach, and then works with the person throughout so there is consistency, like you said. And that relationship, that bond is something that's grown over time. And so if you don't know about our Fear Futures program, I would encourage you to really get to know it and then contribute your voice to that program so we can expand it with this kind of understanding and this undertone, right? And I agree with you, it's very, very important. Last thing I'll say, we have so many employment programming and services, and that's the area that I work in. And so I want to encourage all of you all to connect with us, connect with me, so that we can do a really deep dive on what your vocational aspirations are, right? Who you want to be. And that could change 1,000 different ways over time. You may, be a cook today. You may be the president tomorrow. You may be a cook, a president, a technician. You can be 3 things, 1 thing, 5 things. You can be all of the things that you want to be. But what we want to do is help you think about that, explore those options through this great system in New York City, through the CUNY system, through the training providers that are there, the employers that will hire you. All of these systems that we have partnerships with, we want young folks to take advantage of every opportunity that's there. And so I just want to throw that on the table for you all, because as you think about your dreams and your aspirational goals, connect with us, right? We can make that commitment to continue to work with you, right? Beyond today, going forward. It never has to stop at 21, 26, 30. The labor market is free. All of these college systems are available. You all should connect and be lifelong learners and just be people who know how to network with professionals. And just as you said, who care about you, who want to see the best for you and want to work with you, right, to be the best that you're going to be so you can be the best for other people. So that's the last thing I'll say. And thank you very much for your time.
Hi, everybody. So first, Ina and Ray, thank you so much for joining us and being part of this really important conversation. And to Sabrina, Jalen, Dizzy, and Winter, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think we say, well, thank you for your courage, of course, but I'm not sure how many people realize how hard it is to do what these 4 young people just did. So let's give them another round of applause.
This is so cool. Thank you.
So in all transparency, I received this question ahead of time. So thank you for that. and I plan to, my response would be to make sure that we continue to have opportunities for you to share your stories and to have your voice be heard. But you already gave that answer. And so in my speech, I think I said something like, you're inspiring, but let me make it real. You really inspired me. As I was sitting here listening to you talk, I thought, that's not enough. Like, you already had that idea. I need to come up with other ideas. And so I'm gonna steal more of your ideas, but I'm gonna turn them into commitments. So when we talk about the quality of staff, now I know you're talking about other staff and not the door, because of course the door staff are absolutely remarkable. But staff have heard me say that I'm going to commit to ongoing training because our young people deserve the best. And I want to make that commitment to you that we are going to continue to ensure that our staff are more and more prepared to work with young people effectively, based on that first commitment of making sure that we hear what you need, that the training and the work that we do with our staff will be predicated on the things that you say you need, not what we think you need. And the third thing that I will commit to is representing your voices at the appropriate times, right? So that might mean working with ACS, that might mean pushing our peer organizations, that might mean creating spaces like this, and all of that, because your voices have to be amplified, your needs have to be met, and we all need to do a better job at taking care of our young people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andres Benigin, and I am the family peer advocate at the Door. And I have the pleasure of working with Hassan, but to the three queens that was up there, I just want to say that y'all are a perfect example of when vision procreates with commitment, dreams become reality. In 1981, when ACS was BCW, okay, I was taken out of my home and I was put into juvenile detention, and I skirted around the foster system in the sense that I used to hear people, my peers at that time, and I used to hear about the horrors that they experienced going through the foster system, that I went above and beyond to make myself what I call unfosterable, which means I had to be as bad as I can be, okay? And the abuse that I was subjected to, not only by the peers, but by staff, okay? I know what it's like to express myself, and I'm being told that I don't know what I'm talking about, and how that could create anger and make me more rebellious, okay? And in 1985, I ran away from the last group home I was in, and for the last 40 years, I was living my life all the way to the left. Prison, street, and at 53, I'm finally in a position where my life is going the direction it needs to go in, and I'm paying it forward, okay? And as the family peer advocate here at the Door, I appreciate the stories, because it also helps me gain some tools that I can utilize to help members that come through that may need my service. I take my hat off to y'all, and I thank y'all very much.
I'm going to take this mask off because I need you guys to hear what I'm about to say. First of all, I salute each and every one of you. I don't know where the other two young ladies went, but I salute each and every one of you for sitting here and basically being just a breath of fresh air when it comes to this system. Because if we don't hear from you, then we don't know what we're doing. So let me introduce myself. My name is Valerie Worthy, and I am the director of a program called School Success for Children's Village, right? So it doesn't stop there, all right? I'm the director of a program called School Success. I'm a director of a program called Second Chance that gives youth a second chance instead of incarceration. I run their teen parenting services, and I also work with their residential program, right? I ran one of their residential programs. But let me say this, when you talk about Fair Futures, I was Fair Futures before Fair Futures began. I worked with these teens, pregnant and parenting youth in Inwood House, right? 15 years ago. I walked them into their apartments, into their schools, and I still work with them today. They're 25, they're 30. I still work with them today. You know why? Because when I walked out of being a vice president at JP Morgan Chase, it was because I wanted to work with youth. And you talk about staff that don't just want a paycheck, that's where I was. I wanted to work with youth. I had that cushy job. It wasn't fulfilling. This is what I wanted to do now. And I'm in a position that I make sure anybody who works with me, if you ain't got these young people's best interest in heart, then you need to get to stepping, okay? So I take my hat off to you. I come to this so I can hear you, because it just solidifies that the job that I'm doing, that when I walked out of that job 15, 20 years ago, I did it for a reason, and I have young people that can testify that I am there for them. So I salute you guys, I really do.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Nell. I'm the Director of System Involved Youth, and we jumped into the Q&A section, which is amazing. First of all, I want to thank the panel. Can we give it a round? And I want to thank Siobhan and Kobe and Marsha and Melissa and everybody who helped put today together. Also really want to thank Ray and Ina and Kelsey. Thank you so much. And yeah, now we can open it up to questions.
Hi, guys. This is not much of a question, but I'm OG Door, like 18th Street, 11th Street Door, and I was in foster care. And so I really had to come to this panel today. And everything you say about foster care, I agree is true. I think you were very gracious in not really throwing down and tell what happens there, because you have to go back to those places. But I want to tell you that in terms of, I'm so full, I came to the door from trying to kill myself at a hospital, and somebody at the door knew there. And they got me through college, they got me through graduate school, and it gets better. It really will get better. Just, and about the juvenile hall part, I was framed.
Sorry, oh my God, I'm loud. My bad. My name is Jasmine Gutierrez. I used to be a foster care youth. I'm 22. I don't really have a question as well, but I'd like to say thank you for speaking up, because especially with aging out I have aged out of care. I currently live in Coney Island in the NYCHA building, and aging out was the hardest thing for me being in care. I got into care in November 2016 because I was abused by my father, verbally, mentally, and physically. I have always been open to talking about my story, but it's always been tough talking about dealing with care. It's amazing how being in care can feel like it's worse than being in your past experience. Sometimes I was in positions where I'm like, I would have just stayed being a punching bag than being care. It's horrible. So when it was aging out, that process of kind of being thrown into the world of wolves and everything, and not getting any help, and kind of saying like, okay, we've helped you enough, that's it. It's kind of scared, because I was also a very sheltered child. So being from not doing anything at all to doing everything and figuring it out with no guide, basically. And just the same way, I'm not perfect either. I was a very stubborn child too, being in care. However, I still wish there was still more help with talking and guiding, and like more being able to understand, like, I'm not just being a annoying teenager. I'm just don't know what to do, and I'm scared because I don't know any of you, and you all are helping me, but I also don't trust you. It's a mix of everything, and I still commend you for all telling your stories and stuff, because like I said, as someone who is a foster care youth, and whatnot. I thank you for also making me feel like, because sometimes I feel like I'm alone in story. Like sometimes I'll walk into a room and like, I'm the only one that was in foster care, because nobody like understands how more hurtful that is and the trauma it given me more than the trauma my father has given me. And then hearing your stories, it reminds me like, oh yeah, there's other people that have been through this similar that I've been through. That makes me feel good. Like I'm not the only one thinking I'm crazy, having all this trauma from being a foster child when I should not have this trauma. So thank you.
With foster care pretty much remains the same regardless of their age. Right. Like it's been the same cycle all this time. There's people that are in their 50s that can attest to the same abuse that we're going through now in 2022. Like something has to change.
That's why I was saying it shouldn't have taken it being broadcasted all over media, depicted like it's depicted to the sense where it's desensitizing. And it's so regular that you just see it everywhere. Right. You just see it on this TV show. You see it in this commercial talking about this and there. They're supposed to be having this hotline, but what is this hotline really doing? Right. You feel me? It's bigger than just sitting here and just plastering it somewhere and saying, we gonna get to it when we get to it. That's why I said it's the concept of paying it forward. Quality over quantity.
And it shouldn't take just us being here, having for you guys to, hear our voice. It should take, like, from time to time, the people that sits behind the desk to get up from the desk, take your time out of a day from your office and spend a whole day in those placement and observe. Even though the staff will try to act like everything is peachy, because we know it's not. The children, you pull us to the side, there's youth that will eventually speak to you right then and there inside the group homes with no hesitation. Plenty of time. And there's even children done died in foster care. I'm not sure if you guys heard of my friend Brittany that passed in Hawthorne Cedar, no. And yes, and I'm sitting here gonna tell you, they kill her. Personally, yes, they kill her. Health issue, because they don't tend to the children's health. They try to use your weight, your obesity, and that's not the case. If a kid is complaining, tend to them. So yeah, so try to get up from the desk. I'm just saying, like, if y'all are hiring, like, I'm the person who can be behind the desk. I've been through it, and like, the people that should be behind the desk are people that know what we're going through.
All jokes aside, and that's this whole bigger concept of paying it forward, getting people that have been through the system, getting people that have sat here and understood what it means to go through these type of circumstances. People who are not just going to be biased because they see a skin color, because they see this in black and white.
Hi, so I'm a clinical social worker. I want to thank you for sharing your experiences here today. I am actually from Canada, and I've heard very similar experiences there. So it's disappointing and depressing to hear that these experiences and these stories are not very dissimilar everywhere else. It's a substantial issue of the system. Even though I work with youth, and I love working with youth, I knew that working with ACS or just generally in foster care wasn't something that I would be doing simply because I knew I'd burn out. I knew that there would be a moment where I'd be asked to compromise my values because it's the system I work within. And I've heard so many stories that are basically resonated and just repeated. I've heard from the beginning that there was no respect for the autonomy of the youth to decide their own futures. I heard that there's a prioritization of putting people in placements over the emotional safety of the youth. And I'm not shocked by that at all. I know that decision makers at the top look at these placements and they'll pat themselves on the back that they've got the numbers that they want, that in the back of their minds, it feels like a youth in placement is better than youth without a placement.
Right.
And I get that. There's some safety in that, for sure. But I also know that the staff who are working with you are, I know people call it a matter of training, but it's not. It's just they're hiring workers to be caseworkers who have no expertise, who bring in themselves that have a part of themselves that haven't processed the trauma that they've gone through in their lives, haven't been taught how to like interact with youth in a helpful way, and they lash out, they take advantage of youth, and they impose their own agendas on youth. And no amount of training will change that.
Right.
If they don't have a training that, I'm not to promote social work as a singular profession, but we abide by code of ethics. We went through a lot of schooling to know that when we're with youth, the only thing on our minds is how do I best serve this youth? And yeah, you're not gonna train out how not to pimp out the youth. Like that should be obvious.
Right.
And yeah, just hearing your experiences are shocking, but also unsurprising. So thank you for expressing them.
So because I'm very present the ACS, my first time I just go into school, my school counselors, they see me, I'm very sad. They told me go into the office, talk, and I told her something bad for my family, for my uncle. They just told my principal something. My principal called for the ACS, and very soon, the social work, they just go into my uncle's home, talk anything, and my caseworker, first caseworker, I'm now no call her and anything. They help me so much. I'm very scared I go into the ACS happening because I don't know. This my 2 years coming American. I'm scared maybe my uncle say, she say, American, they pass me, go back to China, so I'm so scared. But my social worker say, don't worry, ACS help every children's. So I'm so appreciative. And after that, I go into the first family. The first family is not good. Because I don't want trouble, so I don't tell everything for my caseworker. But the first time I killed myself, and they told me everything. The ACS help everything for the children, so you can say anything for you. Don't want to say that. I don't know what they say. So again, they changed me going to the outer first family. But right now I'm happy. They help me so much. They help me my green card. They help me have the one good family. They help me everything's good. So I'm very thankful for the ACS, Force Health, and my school. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else like to say anything? I'm afraid if I take it, it might do something great. Just hold it for 1 second.
Hi, everyone. I am a social worker from the Legal Aid Society. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. Thank you, The Door, for hosting this. I'm really, really happy to see the deputies from ACS here as well. I think it's really important that we're all in the room together and have these conversations. I did want to ask if there are any strategies or anything that ACS is planning to do to address the concerns about the quality of the staff that everyone has expressed concerns about.
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. Obviously, I've taken information. I had my notebook. I wrote down some things. So, of course, I will share this so that we can, take these voices and share that and figure out what can be done on a larger scale. I can't say exactly X, Y, and Z will happen. I'm not going to make those promises just to say it, but I have the information, I have some ideas, and I will definitely take it back. I spoke to the commissioner before I came this morning. He knows I'm coming here, so of course he's going to ask for a follow-up, and I will share my notes in about that. We do have an expectation. We want all children to be safe, whether they're in a foster home, in any kind of residential care setting. So I would be, I will definitely take that information back and, have that reiterated in any way possible, of course.
Just a little itty bitty idea, reevaluations, because it's hard to sit here. It would be harder to sit here and start from scratch, to then try to bounce everyone out, or even bounce everyone out and start from scratch. So reevaluations would be necessary. I would say in the same case to do so, as random as they would treat a pop-up for a case, is how it should be for the reevaluations, so that it can be a little more genuine. That's it.
Like, we understand that you guys can't just like fire all the bad workers. Like, we don't expect that, but I feel like there should be like some type of system to how they're hired. And
you gotta find a way to weed the ones out that's already there.
And on top of that, us being the voice for the youth, we should at least get a little bit of update to make sure that the youth is getting, the system is being changed and our voice was actually heard. Because we don't want to feel like our voice was heard and you guys can sit here and tell us, because we're so used to speaking our voice from time to time, and we get told we're going to work on this, we're going to fix this, and then it's like, is nothing being done. We're still where we left off at, where it's been at for years. So it's like, where's the progress? Why we're not getting any updates or any progress? So us being the voice and being here, making sure our voice is heard, I would like for us to at least get any updates on the progress of how we guys gonna try to change the foster care system for the youth.
I want to be a part of that shit. I want to be a part of it.
And just to add on, I heard earlier you said, what was the name of the agency again? You said you guys is doing
Futures?
Yes, Fair Futures.
So Fair Futures is the name of the initiative, and how it will work is that we will work with our providers, our Children Village staff and all the different providers, to support them in the hiring of the coaches, the tutors, and whatever other staff, workforce development. And there's a design and expectations for them to follow. So
Okay, so I just feel like we should add on parenting class with that, only because our youth, and I don't mind sharing my experience. My daughter is in the back with my friend Brielle anyways. I feel like we should have more of a parenting class for the children, our youth leaving foster care, only because a lot of times we end up having children of our own. We're not home with our parents where we're being trained on how to be a parent, on what to do. We're new mothers, new parents, so we don't know much. We're here trying to figure it out from time to time. So I feel like it should be a parenting class to prevent our children having to go in the system or us having to deal with an ACS case. Because my experience is, my daughter's only 7 months. I'm a new-time mom. This is my first kid. Never had a kid before. Doing it all alone. However, when I first gave birth, I did say some stuff out of anger, which, you're not supposed to say. So I do have a case. But I can honestly say they're working with me not to remove my daughter because they see the type of parent that I am. So I give the credit to them, because when credit is due, you have to give the credit. So they are working hardly with me not to remove her out of my household. However, I feel like if I had the parenting classes that you provided to me, the frustration that I had when I first gave birth while dealing with postpartum and a kid alone at 21 years old, I would have never said the stuff that I said out of anger, and an ACS case could have been prevented. And I also know people that used to be in foster care, their kids got taken away and they just gave up trying to fight for their children because they know how the system is. So in their mindset, they're like, there's no point of trying to fight to get my kid out of the system because I know how ACS is and it's gonna be a struggle, so just keep my kid. And I'm not one of those parents, so I'm gonna fight for my kid. I'm gonna make sure of that. But I just feel like parenting classes is a big thing that should be included in that.
I agree 100%. Also, because our example of parents for a lot of us are the people that we're in the care with, our staff members, and they're terrible examples.
My son is in the back. He's 6 years old. And it's not been easy. This parenting stuff is not easy. And I've had to figure it all out. Once I got into the shelter when I left my ex-husband, I signed myself up for these classes because my ex-husband was supposed to do it, but he ain't never go to none of the classes. So I said, you know what, since he didn't go. Let me go. Let me see what he missed out on. So I started parenting classes, anger management, assault and battery, domestic violence, and these all things that tied into how I parent my son now, because these aren't things that I learned. If I went off of what I learned and what I've experienced, I don't think I'd be a very good mom.
Yeah.
But you know, I take from the experiences, I see how other people parent their kids. I see how my parents parented me, or how people and the patience that I've been given with the few people that I did get to encounter in the system. And I implement that into my parenting, but I think it's very important for the parenting because we don't want our kids, especially a lot of us, we don't know any better. Like, we just don't know. It's not even like we don't want to do it, we just don't have the knowledge or the resources. Like, even this is my first time ever hearing about that program. They should be, like, telling the world so that we all know about the program.
Yes, parenting and relationship, those two.
So I'm gonna just have to jump in here because Children's Village has a huge parenting class, and we work with the Door, ACS, SCO, Shelter in Arms. We work with all the agency, and the parenting class is free because I run it. So I'm here to tell you that if you are looking for a parenting class, just have someone contact Children's Village because we're running it all year round. We have fatherhood, we have parenting for adults, for teens, and it's there.
That's dope.
It's there, all right?
Well, thanks to Ms. Siobhan, I'm in a parenting class with her, and so far I've been learning some things, so we got to give it to Ms. Siobhan.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Let's head over to get some food.
Woo!
And thank you. Thank